Neopets, come here. Sit down with me. Neopets, you've come so far. You've survived for so long despite the odds. But what happened to you? You're not the website I used to know. Neopets, we need to talk. Neopets.com is a historically notable website. One of the very first online virtual pets, it's remarkable both for its age and its longevity. The fact that it has survived to this day is no small feat, and with this charming selection of memorable and lovable virtual pets, it's not hard to see why. However, these days, although the website still does exist, I would describe it more as a shambling husk than a lively, vibrant virtual world. Neopets did not take the death of Flash very well, and for a long time they didn't have the funds or the know-how to convert the website into a more modern format. So for years, Neopets has existed in this kind of half-converted zombie state. However, there's been some new developments very recently that may have a substantial impact on this website's future. The ownership of Neopets has recently changed hands, becoming independently owned for the first time in nearly 2 decades. This comes with a large cash injection that the website sorely needed, as well as a host of planned changes and updates, both to the website and to the franchise as a whole. Fans of Neopets are largely pretty optimistic over this change, and while this is a better situation than languishing under the uncaring ownership of NetDragon, the company that cannibalized and obliterated Jumpstart, which, to be fair, was an equally uncaring owner of Neopets, well, we're not completely out of the woods yet. Let's take a look at the current state of the website, what has changed, what needs to be changed, and eventually answer the question, can Neopets be saved? Before we dive in, let me introduce you to the fragrance revolution and sponsor of today's video, known as Scentbird. Designer perfumes are fun, they're great, they make you feel expensive and fancy and cool and fresh and funky, in the groovy way, not in the stink way. However, the price tag on those things, youch! That's a lot of money for a perfume that you might not even be into by the time the bottle's running out. So what if you could get access to all these designer perfumes without the big whopping bottle, and therefore without the big whopping price tag? Here's where Scentbird comes in. For just $17 a month, you can get your own personalized fragrance, both from well-known designer brands like Prada, Versace, and Gucci, as well as a large selection of niche brands, in a bottle size that'll last you the month or longer. These aren't the puny little samples that'll only let you spray about 5 times. This is a generous amount that'll last you a good while. They recently sent me Sun Force by The Harmonist. This is a delightfully summery scent with notes of Hawaiian pomelo, Bulgarian rose, incense, honey, and sandalwood. This scent is light, warm, and citrusy, a great choice for relaxing by the pool. Or how about Appear by Hermetica? This is a deliciously fruity scent with pear, green apple, and caramel. It's so sweet and yummy, and I think this will be my scent of choice as the season transitions from summer to fall. Each month of Scentbird, you'll get up to 3 new fragrances in a convenient travel-sized bottle in these cute magnetic, brightly colored cases so you can know at a glance which perfume you're reaching for. If you're interested in trying this out and treating yourself to a variety of luxury fragrances without emptying out your bank account, you can use my code LeeSpeaks to get 55% off your first month of Scentbird. Thank you so much to Scentbird for helping me keep this channel running, and now back to Neopets. So, holy shit, this is the worst state I've ever seen a website in my life! Like, it is so deeply broken that it just leaves me astounded. It makes me ask, why did this happen? How does this happen? And my answer to that is, I have no idea. I have no idea why they attempted to convert the site out of Flash and just seemed to give up halfway through. Maybe the site is too spaghetti-coated and complicated, maybe they just ran out of money. But man, the final result is a website that is just painful to use, especially in comparison to the glory days of the 2000s. First of all, hey, what's going on here? What's going on with the new version of the website appearing most of the time, but like only on certain important pages? And so all the more peripheral pages appear as the old, much more functional version of the website. Well, at least not every important page is in the new format, like something as rudimentary as your pet details. And once you get to this page, you can explore the website much more effortlessly, although you may get sent back to the crappy layout unexpectedly. The current world layouts are pretty nice looking. However, the links within them no longer reliably lead to anything functional. Like, hey, what's this? Oh, it's nothing. What's this? Nothing. What about this? Oh, you can't even click on it. This Swiss cheese functionality is at the heart of what's wrong with Neopets in the current day. It wants to be a complete website like it once was, but it just isn't able to be. They've done too much and not enough at the same time. I really can't express how the poor integration between the new and old version of the website affects how playable it is. Coming back to it, it kind of feels like I needed my prior experience with the website to be able to play it, or else it would probably just feel entirely opaque. The new ownership has made one change that I personally feel was very overdue. So, for years post-Flash EOL, the once huge and robust games page was shrunk down to a pathetically small list of HTML5 converted games. Well, kind of. Because technically all of the old games were still accessible, just not directly via the games page itself. They were just kind of floating around, extant but unlinked, as yet another odd and confusing relic of the half-complete post-Flash conversion. Well, better than getting rid of them entirely, I guess, but what they've done recently I think they should have done a long time ago. Instead of just half-assedly hiding the old games, there's now a section on the games page for classic games. This has Ruffle directly built in, which means that all these old games are playable without any downloads, which is definitely a marked improvement from the previous completely baffling situation. One thing that's a bit of a bummer is that the games that weren't able to run with Ruffle are just completely gone now. To be fair, I wasn't able to run them with Flash Player proper either when they were still there, so maybe they were just completely non-functional, and, well, they shouldn't be hosting things that are completely non-functional on their website. A lot of these games are missing because they were based in Shockwave instead of Flash, which means that Ruffle wouldn't work with it. But there are a couple Flash-only games that are gone now too, for reasons that I can't explain. If you're interested in playing the games that are missing, check out the Flashpoint archive with a search for Neopets. It seems as though they have all of the games, including the intentionally temporary sponsored games. Man, if you weren't there in the immersive advertising era of Neopets, well, you didn't miss much besides a lot of ads. A lot of goddamn ads. So many ads that I'm not even sure if that kind of marketing tactic is allowed to exist anymore. The ad games tended to be the weakest of Neopets' game catalog, so I can't really recommend any of those unless you're nostalgic for a specific one. You can't redeem Neopoints on these archived games, but it's nice that they're not lost forever. The new version of the site is, well, kind of dumbed down. The version of Neopets that I grew up with was unabashedly complicated. It required a lot of time to look through and absorb all the stories and lore, and it kind of feels like they're trying to erase that with this new format in favor of something much more simple and kid-friendly, even though the vast majority of Neopets' current player base is veteran adult players. This overly simplified version of the website just doesn't serve it beneficially at all. It gives the impression that there's nothing to do on the website because it removes access to so many pages. And it's really nonsensical to me that your active Neopets stats aren't constantly visible like they used to be. I want to be able to see the status of my pet. I want to be able to see how hungry they are at a glance instead of clicking through several pages. The only way to see this very basic information is clicking through to the homepage and loading up a submenu. This is just way too inconvenient. It's as if they're deprioritizing the virtual pet aspect in favor of nothing? This is a virtual pet website. Your virtual pet should be front and center, not hidden away in a menu. It feels like they did this with the intention of making the site more kid-friendly, but instead it just feels much more inaccessible. And I mean, they are really gung-ho about the whole kid-friendly aspect, because the level of censorship on the boards is so stringent that I'm kind of afraid to post there in fear of accidentally setting off the censors. Abbreviations like LMAO and WTF are off the table, and I can understand that one because they do implicitly contain swears, but also words that could hypothetically maybe be used to evade censors are banned too. Some words that have been reported to get users warned or frozen include corn, tweed, grape, as well as cucumber and document due to the string containing cum. This means that you can jeopardize your account by talking about something perfectly innocent that just happens to resemble something inappropriate. So yeah, the current state of moderation on Neopets.com is say the names of potentially lewd produce a few times and your account will get frozen, while cheaters and hackers run amok unaddressed. Oh, that's right, the cheater issue. So how about the fact that absolutely nothing is affordable anymore? Neopets is facing an inflation crisis the likes of which resemble Gaia Online when they decided it was a good idea to sell money printers. Current players allege this issue is a result of unchecked cheating and botting. Basically, every single rare item that may appear in stores gets snatched up instantly by these bots and then resold at an absurdly high markup. This makes rare items all but inaccessible for casual, non-cheating players. It seems like Neopets' current system isn't equipped to be able to identify and ban these cheaters, and so you'll get perfectly legitimate players getting banned on a fluke, while these cheaters keep doing their thing and making the Neopets economy more and more broken. You may be wondering, why not just set the site back to the old version since it seemed to be much more functional? Well, Neopets being profoundly broken isn't exactly a new phenomenon. They just used to hide it better. A lot of these old features allowed hackers to use completely game-breaking scripts, including one that seemed to have allowed users access to administrator tools, although this is a claim that's denied by the Neopets team. This exploit allowed users to create unconverted pets, Neopets that still have the old design used prior to 2007, which are easily the most highly coveted type of pet in the trading market. This particular issue was fixed relatively quickly, but there are still several exploits that plague the site to this day, and this would only become worse if you attempted to restore the old, less secure version of the website. Now, there are certain scripts that are only personal quality of life improvements, and these users don't deserve to be banned. Although, in practice, there's no distinction made between these harmless scripts and the ones that make the site worse for everybody else. And there are certainly types of hacking and botting that make the site continuously more and more unusable to anybody who doesn't have access to these tools, and the most prolific users of these exploits seem to be able to get away with it over and over and over without facing any repercussions. According to the Reddit user NeoTruths, there's one user in particular who is an extremely notorious botter who has stolen over 40,000 accounts, is personally responsible for a lot of the hyperinflation on the rare items prices, and has accumulated hundreds of billions in Neopoints. This botting operation is so large-scale and intense that this user claims that this single individual accounted for 42% of all users who changed their passwords in April of 2023. If true, these stats are completely insane, but I do have to take this user's word for it because I don't know how they're obtaining this information. They claim that they're better equipped to observe this kind of illegitimate activity due to having updated observation tools as opposed to the Neopets team's decade-old infrastructure. So why would anybody spend so much time and effort spoiling this game for everybody else? Well, the Neopets black market is thriving, and there's a lot of money to be made off of selling items, pets, and accounts for real-life money. This user makes bank off of their gigantic botting operation to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars per month. NeoTruths also reports rampant cheating on the site's site-wide yearly event, the Altador Cup. Last year, a group of accounts representing the Croc Island team started pulling suspiciously high scores, and their usernames are equally suspect: Syntheson1, Syntheson2, Syntheson3, and so on. The Altador Cup is one of the most important remaining aspects of gameplay and a major draw for the fanbase, and so it's disappointing to hear about this event being spoiled by one or a handful of illegitimate players. And how about Neopets' whaling habits? For those who aren't familiar with the jargon, whales are the top spending players, usually defined as the top 3% of high spenders. Whales are typically the backbone for any microtransaction-based game's profit model, and I don't really have evidence for this claim, but being a whale isn't typically a sign of being a rich, benevolent gaming beneficiary, but rather a sign of having an intense gambling or spending addiction. And Neopets is no different from sleazy mobile apps when it comes to whaling. Let's take a look at the cost of Neocash. With an approximate conversion rate of $10 for 1,000 Neocash, this means that 10 capsule bundles costs $11, this other one costs $25, individual items cost about $1 a piece, which really adds up when you consider that you can now have 20 Neopets total, 6 by default and 14 purchasable. The option to buy 10 extra pets costs about $42, an $8 discount over buying them all individually, which is $5 each. These are pretty non-trivial amounts of money, and kind of an absurd charge to ask on this site that is functionally a shambling corpse. I've seen people on Reddit posting about buying dozens of these birthday capsules, which works out to hundreds of real-life dollars, and some of these people also mention how they're broke and that buying these microtransactions puts them in a bad situation. Unfortunately, it's hardly exclusive to Neopets to foster addictions and prey on their users' unhealthy spending habits, but I find it particularly disappointing on this website that barely bothers to keep itself functional. I admit that I did chuck $10 their way because, well, it is a virtual world that's still up and running, and I find that worthy of at least a bit of support. But I also couldn't really say that I recommend this. This website is so buggy that you can't even try on the Neocash items like you're supposed to, and sometimes the items don't even show up on your pet in the dress-up page until after you click save. And that $10 didn't really get me a lot. I did get this cherry blossom skin, which I admit is pretty cool. It's pretty much an equipable paintbrush, but that's pretty much the only really cool thing, and everything else was just a basic clothing item. You pretty much have to spend Neocash if you want any advanced customization with your pet, and so I really feel like the Neopets team at least owes it to their users to get this in working order again. Another problem that's deeply emblematic of the issues that have been plaguing Neopets as of late is known as the pound glitch. I'm under the impression that this issue has recently been fixed, but this issue was so destructive, so pervasive, and lasted so long that I would be remiss not to mention it. So Neopets has a mechanic that allows users to abandon their pets, usually because they've reached the maximum amount and want to try something else. And for a long stretch of time, anytime you went to place an unwanted pet in the pound, it would essentially be a Russian roulette of which Neopet actually goes there. So let's say you have a plain color Gellert that you're trying to put up for adoption. You go through the steps, hit the button a bunch of times as your pet is screaming and pleading with you not to abandon it, because traumatizing children is fun. And when you're finished, your rare color Psy Bunny has been put in the pound instead, and your Gellert's still sitting pretty in your pet page. No worries, you can just adopt her back, and she's gone. Or if the pet affected by the glitch happened to be a Lutari, an otter-like limited edition pet, there's no chance of getting them back at all without the intervention of the Neopets team, because a peculiarity in the pound system causes these pets to disappear into the void rather than being sent to the pound. The pets affected by this glitch would frequently get snapped up instantly by pound watchers, and you're essentially at their mercy on whether they'll be generous enough to give them back to you. And since a lot of these users have a finders keepers mentality, they're frequently lost to the original owner forever. It's encouraging that the new management of Neopets has prioritized fixing this issue, but it's absurd that this was a known issue for so long with no action taken. It used to be that a major aspect of Neopets gameplay was known as plots. They've had many over the years, and they've all been retired except for one, known as the Altador plot. And, well, just because you can still access it doesn't mean it's officially supported anymore. It's a lot like how the old games used to be. They don't want to nuke the content entirely because there's nothing new being added to the site and they don't want to take away the meager amount of gameplay that remains, but they're also unwilling or unable to make sure the plot stays functional. However, this seems fixable because this plot is perfectly functional with the Ruffle extension. Well, almost, because a chronic issue with the syncing of the in-game clock makes one of the sections of the plot extremely obnoxious to finish, to the point that a lot of players get the impression that it's unfinishable. An assumption supported by the Neopets team claiming that the plot no longer works. However, I did finish it, and not that long ago either. The plots seem like the most salvageable and relatively low-effort additions that the website could make, because I am sure a lot of the users would be happy to play the old ones again. The one plot that remains is pretty engaging and challenging and keeps you engaged with the website for a decent stretch of time, which is something that the current version of the website sorely needs. Neopets announced plans for a new plot to be released in early 2024, and I really hope they don't get rid of the Altador plot when this one's released, because removal of even more gameplay features is exactly the opposite of what the website needs right now. Another point of contention with the fanbase is that several of the site's most beloved features have vanished with no signs of ever returning. For example, Key Quest was an extremely popular multiplayer board game that was a feature on the site from 2008 to 2014. The abrupt ownership handoff from Viacom to Jumpstart would be the death knell for this beloved game. During the transition, key files were lost, and the new staff had minimal experience with the game's coding language. According to NeoTruths, in early 2015 the lost source files had been found and the game was in a functional state. Well, that was until the employee that accomplished this was unceremoniously laid off about a week later, dashing any hopes of the game's return to the website. And even though this game has been retired for years, for some reason you're still able to spend real money buying tokens for this game. This is pretty much completely inexcusable to me. There is no reason that these things should still be able to be purchased, and it clearly says no refunds, so people can just buy these things, have no use for them, and be unable to return them. Another casualty of the handoff to Jumpstart was Habitarium, a game where you observe microscopic creatures. There's less concrete information about why this one closed, but it's safe to assume, like Key Quest, the new ownership just didn't have the staff with experience and necessary skills to keep supporting the game. Other games lost in the post-handoff cataclysm have been undergoing a quick fix since 2014, still available on the games page but with no hope of return. These games were some of the strongest gameplay elements that the site had, and their seemingly permanent discontinuation and the lack of willingness or ability to fix or replace them has been bad for the site's reputation and generated a lot of bad faith in the jumpstart ownership of the website. There may be some hope that these features could be revitalized under the new independent management, but the chances of this seem small. At this point, it kind of seems like the amount and diversity of gameplay will remain indefinitely gutted, as most of the effort and labor for new gameplay is being invested in apps and offsite experiences. And now, a menagerie of relatively minor issues. The clock is about 30 seconds out of sync from how it reports on the website, causing numerous issues with time-based game features. The Neo Home section of the website, where you were once able to design a home for your pets, despite appearing on the site's tutorial checklist, is now completely non-functional. If you don't have a new home already, it's completely impossible to create a new one, and if you do, all you can do is place items and not arrange them in any way. The jackpot reward for the Grumpy Old King daily activity, where you construct a joke out of some predetermined menus of words, is broken in the new format of the website. You can still play it, but you can't collect the prize for winning anymore. It requires a user script to set it back to the previous version, which is technically against terms of service. There's no distinction made between the classic games that work with Ruffle and the ones that are glitchy or unplayable. Sometimes you'll run a game just fine, but other times you'll get what I got when I attempted to play Doubloon Disaster. I'm pressing keys, clicking. Yeah, this doesn't work at all. Items with a rarity of exactly 100 are never available in the shops due to a part of the code where it says less than 100 instead of the functional less than or equals to 100. A lot of these issues aren't necessarily a result of the sloppy transition out of Flash. Some of them have been there all this time and have just never been resolved, possibly because the Neopets team doesn't know how to fix these things without destroying some load-bearing part of the code. And oh, the problems don't just start and end with the website. Let us discuss Neopets' failed crypto and NFT projects. Their first attempt at this came in 2018 with the launch of Neopets Crypto. This was a blockchain-based trading card game with some limited integration with the Neopets website. These trading card packs were sold both in traditional currency and in Ethereum, with a going rate of $4.99 USD per standard pack and $7.99 per deluxe pack. Duplicates in these card packs could be resold for Ethereum. Each card came with a prize code that could be redeemed for some Neopoints and an item. CryptoQuest's trading cards came with the promise that because they were backed on the blockchain, they were, quote, yours forever to keep or sell. So how well does that claim hold up? Turns out, not so well. When the CryptoQuest website became defunct in 2019, the usefulness and value of the CryptoQuest trading cards was impacted in two major ways. Obviously, because the game was no longer available, these cards no longer had any meaningful application because their usefulness was intrinsically linked to the game. But hey, you can still look at your cards and reminisce, right? Well, since the visual information on these cards was linked to the CryptoQuest website, after the site went down, the people who own these cards couldn't even look at them anymore. So while these cards technically do exist on the blockchain, any practical or sentimental use for them has vanished. After this project imploded, it was time to move on to their second unsuccessful crypto venture, Neopets Metaverse. What was this game like? Well, I'm not really sure. It seems like the game, when it did exist, was pretty limited as far as public access and amount of gameplay, so there's not really a lot to go off of besides some short trailers. God, 3D Neopets are so ugly. This project came with the launch of 10,000 Neopets collection boxes, which could be exchanged for a randomly generated NFT Neopet. According to Kotaku, these NFTs went for an average of 2.057 Solana, or approximately 460 USD. You may think that's ludicrously expensive, but I implore you, just look at these things. Can't you see the inherent value? No, I can't even pretend. They sold nearly half their stock of collection boxes, accumulating over $2 million for the Neopets Metaverse project. So what became of that $2 million? Well, it seemed as though the Neopets Metaverse was in alpha for a while, and then, like most other NFT projects, unceremoniously disappeared, along with any hope of retaining value for those several $100 Neopet images. Well, at least these sad little images can still be viewed instead of only existing as a data point on a blockchain ledger. So at this point, it's pretty clear that the Venn diagram of people who enjoy playing classic Neopets and the people who are into NFTs looks approximately like two separate circles in two separate rooms. And any person who used to exist in the overlap had their faith burned out by what many perceived to be as two separate rug pulls. And as of last month, this rift has caused some major drama between the Neopets fanbase and creator and former owner of Neopets.com, Adam Powell. Prior to the shenanigans that went down in the summer of 2023, Adam Powell was known as a fairly well-regarded figure to the Neopets community as a whole. That all changed when several Neopets communities throughout the internet began expressing their distaste over Powell's new crypto-based game project known as Dragons. It seems like ground zero for this particular drama was this r/Neopets post, simply asking, anyone hear of Adam and Donna's new game, Dragons? With its AI-generated concept art and promised blockchain technology, as well as the fact that this has apparently been in development since 2018 with very little to show for it, well, the community was unreceptive to say the least. On this thread were such glowing appraisals as, couldn't think of a worse concept if I tried. Adam and Donna are serial liars and grifters who leech off the Neopets community at every possible opportunity. And I hope all their damn crypto schemes crash and burn. And this lack of support for his new crypto-based project resulted in every single one of his hinges falling right off, culminating in Powell obsessively seeking out, participating in, and subsequently getting banned from every single Neopets community that he could get his non-fungible hands on. And since he seems to intentionally seek out the kind of content that covers the situation and his resulting behavior, there is a very real chance that Adam Powell is here right now. So Adam, if you're here, practice a bit of self-love and go engage with something that you actually like instead. Clearly, none of this is making you happy. The goals and values of the Neopets community are completely misaligned with your own. And frankly, every single time that you leave another comment and get banned on yet another platform, it makes you seem more like a petulant teenager instead of a seasoned tech professional. So if you're here, Adam, and hopefully you've stabilized to the point where you aren't seeking this kind of thing out anymore, just click off the video. Go drink some water, take a little walk, get some fresh air. I believe in you. Jelly Neo, a fan-run Neopets news site, covered the start of this whole debacle. Seemingly in response to this poor reception from this initial Reddit discussion, he showed up on the r/Neopets Discord server in order to evangelize his game and the concept of crypto in general, stating in response to criticism, "Crypto is the antidote to all the world's ills," and that the unsupportive reaction to his blockchain ventures were how the human race goes extinct. The way he was behaving in this Discord had pretty much everyone convinced that he was a troll, considering the belligerence and general incoherence of his arguments. However, he ended up confirming his identity by dropping the most memed image of this whole shenanigan, this photo of himself holding up the middle finger, often shared with the caption and his direct quote, "I hope you live forever in poverty." Needless to say, the Neopets community went completely bonkers over this. I've compiled some highlights.
I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever in poverty. Yeah, yeah. I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever in poverty. Yeah, yeah.
In a remarkable example of how exactly not to behave as a public figure on the internet, Adam continuously kept combatively interacting with his critical response to his behavior, seemingly seeking out anything and everything that mentioned him at all, until he was banned from r/Neopets, their Discord, Jelly Neo, and ultimately shadow banned site-wide on Reddit. The other founder, Donna, has also dipped her toes in the Neo drama, completely disavowing the Neopets community after taking a look at an 18+ section of a Neopets fandom Discord. And while there is something to be said about the ethics of producing NSFW content centered around a property that's fundamentally for kids, I think placing that content behind an age-restricted barrier on a purposely limited platform like Discord is just about the most ethical version of that you can find. And this seems like a bit of a dead dove do not eat moment.
I don't know what I expected.
It's kind of on you to go into a space that's clearly labeled adults 18+ and then get upset that there's adult content in there. It's perfectly reasonable to be uncomfortable with this kind of thing and even to be upset by it, but it's pretty unfair to act like this specific niche Discord channel is representative of the entire Neopets community, or to act like the people involved in these private chats are filthy degenerates for daring to be adults participating in adult-oriented conversation. So, Neopets is independently owned again. This means that everything is going to get better and it's going to go back to how it was in the glory days, right? Right? cannot stress this enough. Neopets, as we know it, is still in a pretty precarious situation, and the switch to independent ownership is not a guarantee that Neopets will make a complete return to form. The biggest thing that's making me feel not so optimistic about this new development is the substantial change in what you get when you visit the URL neopets.com. Instead of taking you to the virtual pet homepage as it always has, it leads to this more general homepage that hosts all of Neopets' currently active projects. And in my opinion, this is a big red flag. I think this is a sign that they may be considering phasing out classic Neopets in favor of these newer games. Classic Neopets could be removed entirely without majorly affecting the overall layout of this new homepage. And I hope that I'm wrong, but this feels like a sign that Neopets is on its way out. The fact of the matter is, we have no idea how much of this new investment money is going to be put towards classic Neopets and how much is going towards their new projects like World of Neopets. In my non-professional opinion, the longevity of the Neopets franchise hinges on them keeping this old website up and running. The core of the Neopets audience is and will always remain to be people who were playing during the 2000s, who are much more interested in nostalgia and preserving the things that they grew up with rather than these new, frankly unappealing 3D attempts. They need to preserve the old website or else this franchise will go the way of Club Penguin. Gen Alpha does not care about Neopets, and any attempts to rebrand the site towards something that'd be interesting to today's kids would be, in my opinion, deeply misguided. I've been seeing some people celebrating the fact that Neopets is out of the hands of the NFT bros responsible for those ludicrously ill-conceived Neopets Crypto projects. Listen, you need to understand that the default state for any one of the Silicon Valley tech types is a crypto bro. It's just the type of scam that isn't illegal yet. And tech business people love scams. They love running scams, they love being scammed, they love them. So no, the looming threat of neo-NFTs is not completely gone because the new ownership is, yet again, another NFT bro. The announcement of new ownership came with the claim that the new game World of Neopets will not be crypto or NFT based, so hopefully they've got it in their heads that these things are entirely incompatible with the Neopets fanbase. But I'm a little worried about this wiggly phrasing of currently there are no NFTs or crypto used in World of Neopets. I think the Neopets community would be more confident with there will never be NFTs or crypto used in World of Neopets, but no, we just get a currently. So as part of their efforts to revitalize the site, they've reached out to some public figures to make them brand ambassadors. This makes sense, you do need marketing to get your stagnated website back off the ground. So when you think of a celebrity or public figure who would make sense to endorse Neopets, who comes to mind? Maybe somebody associated with gaming? Maybe somebody associated with 2000s nostalgia? Or how about renowned singer-songwriter John Legend?
Hey everybody, I'm excited to announce that I'm the new brand ambassador for Neopets. You know the game, it's a classic pet game and it's long been a favorite in our house.
When I first saw this, I kind of assumed that it was a joke. This pairing makes so little sense that I was like, oh, that's funny, I wonder why he's pretending to be working with Neopets. Oh wait, he's not pretending. This is a real thing that's happening. My first impression of this is, uh-oh, sounds like those millions of dollars of new investment money aren't necessarily being put to good use. I can't imagine that an endorsement deal with John Legend is cheap, and, forgive me if I don't exactly believe him when he claims to care about Neopets at all. It comes off as a confusing and expensive choice, and it makes me doubt that Neopets' new owners have the site's best interests in mind, considering that every dollar of John Legend money is money that isn't being used to fix the profoundly broken website. I have a bit of breaking news here. Just today, the Neopets and G Fuel collaboration dropped. These are based on the slushy items from Neopets, and there's also a few bracelets. The bracelets sold out pretty much instantly, which confirms to me that they ought to produce more wearables, because people want to buy that. So how do I think their money could be better spent other than frivolous celebrity endorsements? Improvement number 1. Hire experienced web designers and cybersecurity professionals to start dredging the site out of borderline inoperability. This should easily be the number 1 priority. If the current Neopets team doesn't have the chops to restore the site on their own, bring in some people who can. Get them working on the frequently complained about issues, get them working on the botting problem, make the browsing experience cohesive, and bring those old but functional pages out of hiding. Improvement number 2, overhaul the inventory system. As of right now, the inventory is like pulling teeth to use. There's no tool available for organizing multiple items, and it has some serious issues with glitching out and not doing what you want it to do. The classic inventory system was much more popular than this current busted version, so maybe it would be for the best to model the new system after that. Improvement number 3, overhaul the pound system. At present, tons of Neopets are completely unadoptable due to containing strings in their name that will just never appear as you're refreshing the page. It would serve this game mechanic much better to be more easily and comprehensively browsable, and it would also help if the search function was broadened a bit to not require you to spell the Neopet's name with exact precision. Improvement number 4, allow users to toggle on and off the old version of the website in the new beta version. To be honest, most people don't want to look at this, and it might just be for the best to scrap the beta look entirely. Or at the very least, if the new appearance remains, refocus the design to highlight the Neopets again. We should not have to load several pages just to see if our Neopet is hungry. Improvement number 5, revive expired parts of the website. This could include plots, neo-homes, or more ambitiously, the retired games KeyQuest and Habitarium. If it's too hard to make new stuff that users will be satisfied with, and I imagine that it's pretty hard to make new stuff that users will be satisfied with, just bring back the old stuff. The user base would probably be more happy with that than attempts at new additions to the site. And improvement number 6, new ways to make Neopoints and adjusting the current payouts to be responsive to the current state of Neopets' economy. There just aren't enough ways to accumulate currency in the new version of the site, and the methods that are currently available either pay out a pittance or are just not really that enjoyable to use. And the resulting inflation that would come with producing more currency could be offset by a meaningful solution to the botting problem. Now that I've discussed why Neopets sucks so bad right now, let me explain how to play it anyways. Cause hey, if this site doesn't get any new players, it's definitely doomed for sure. So allow me to explain how you get the most out of the site, flaws and all. Warning, warning, wee-oo! This is not a friendly game for new players. I'm not saying you'll get bullied or anything like that, although, I don't know, maybe you will have never participated in the boards. But it's just not easy for a new account to make any appreciable amount of money. No, it's more than not easy, it's borderline impossible. However, if you're fine with just a casual virtual pet that you can spend a few minutes tending to each day, you may enjoy playing Neopets. Or if you used to play the game and feel nostalgic for it, you can experience a simulacrum of the game you used to know, because, well, it's only half, or maybe more like a fifth converted. A lot of this website still presents as the old version of the game. Returning players will be familiar with this, but new players may feel a bit daunted by Neopets' proclivity towards punishing RNG. This manifests in the chance wheels, which you pay for, taking your items or harming your pets just about as often as they give you anything useful. There's the fact that random events sometimes just steal your stuff or screw you over. There's the fact that you can attempt to access a specific section of the website for years and years and years and not make any progress. Neopets may technically be a kid's game, but there are a lot of features that are way above any child's aptitude level, including a lot of mathy gambling, most of which usually just take your Neopoints more so than ever paying out. Kind of like real life. There are guides out there for new players who hope to become rich in Neopoints, and this will not be one of them, mostly because it's not something I've ever managed to accomplish for myself. This is a guide made by and for the casual player. If you're a returning player who hasn't logged in a long time, don't get your hopes up about being able to recover your old account. It seems like mine, which has been untouched for over 10 years, has now been wiped from existence, and I also don't have access to the email I used to make it either. Let's start with the basics, creating a Neopet. The Neopets that you see on any given day of the year are the standard selection, and there are a few Neopets that can only be created on certain days of the year. Neopet names follow site username rules, so no duplicates. Keep in mind that the Neopet trading economy is highly driven by these names. In general, the fewer characters the better, and the inclusion of any underscores or numbers greatly devalue the name of the pet. Real words take priority over invented words, and real names take priority over both of those. Pronounceable names also have a higher value than ones that you can't. But if you're not interested in trading your Neopets, this isn't really something that you have to concern yourself with. Neopets come in the default colors red, blue, yellow, and green, and if you want them to have a fancier color, you're going to need to find yourself a paintbrush. Paintbrushes are one of the more high-value items out there, but they can be gotten organically from certain random events and some jackpots for daily tasks. The reason I have so many pets in cool colors, the Darrigan Poogle and Wraith Akara are highlights in my opinion, is because I take a look at the site Lost and Pound once per day. The site's a little broken at the moment, but only on the homepage. You just need to type in after the .org/Neopets/ the name of the Neopet you're looking for. For example, /Neopets/SciBunny. One day. Or how about /Neopets/Uni? There they are. This is how I've gotten all of my Neopets except this Aisha. You can have a maximum of 6 Neopets without buying additional slots with premium currency or membership. Now that you have a Neopet, you're free to explore the world. Take a bit to explore the world map and familiarize yourself with the locations, shops, and various other things that the links take you to. A much more efficient way to use Neopets than navigating through the site directly is to use one of several dailies lists. I personally like to use the one on thedailyneopets.com, and there's also the dailies list from jellyneo.net. So what is there to do every day? If you need some food, be sure to hit the giant jelly and giant omelet. These food items are particularly useful because you can get more than one use out of them instead of being a one-and-done consumable like most purchasable food. If you have a brand new account with very few Neopoints, you can also feed your pets at the soup kitchen. Every day that you'll log in, you'll get a notification for Trudy's Surprise, a slot machine that pays out some Neopoints. If you can manage to do this daily for 25 days in a row, you'll get a large bonus of 100,000 Neopoints. It's worth it to take a look at the money tree, where you can pick out 10 items per day, and the secondhand shop, which serves a similar function but for clothes. Both of these locations count towards your 10 daily item limit. You can find some good stuff here if you're lucky, but they get snapped up very quickly by other users. There's the Tombola, which can award you some Neopoints and items if you win. There's the Fruit Machine, which usually doesn't give you anything, but you can get some high-volume items like a paintbrush if you're lucky. There's Coltzen's Shrine, which usually gives you some benefit like healing your pets or making them stronger. There's the discarded magical blue Grundy. There's the discarded magical blue Grundo plushie. There's the discarded magical blue Grundo plushie of Prosperity, which gives you a random benefit. There's a few daily events that might give you a prize, but might also hurt your pets or take your stuff. But more often than not, you'll just walk away with nothing. You don't need to do all of these tasks every day. Just familiarize yourself with the ones on the list, and pick and choose what's worth it to you and what isn't. And of course, there's the gambling. There are several prize wheels and scratch cards, which are more likely to lead to disappointment than any decent payout, but are sometimes worth the risk. If you wouldn't like to worry about feeding your Neopets every day, you can use the Neolodge to keep them fed instead. You can choose from several different hotels of varying prices, and also pay for several add-on amenities, but in terms of function, the cheapest possible hotel is exactly the same as the most expensive with all possible add-ons, which renders anything but the cheapest option a needless waste of Neopoints. Since it can be costly and time-consuming to feed your Neopets every day, I just choose the maximum length of stay every time and send them in again after it expires. Using the lodge won't limit your access to your pets, it just keeps the hunger meter maxed out. Because of those previously mentioned disadvantageous random events, be sure to keep your extra money in the bank and any valuable items that you don't immediately intend to use in your safety deposit box. Another thing that's important to note about playing on Neopets is that they're pretty unforgiving about what's considered cheating. Most online games allow you to use multiple accounts so long as you're not deviating from what's considered normal play, but on Neopets you're forbidden from using multiple accounts for any type of item or currency gathering gameplay. In practice, side accounts on Neopets are mostly just for storing extra pets. That is, unless you're the user with over 40,000 stolen accounts. A great resource for this game is r/Neopets, the Neopets Reddit board. This is probably the best way to get real-time updates about the website, as well as letting you know about valuable opportunities. One of the available daily tasks is called Tarla's Non-Toolbar Treasures, where if you show up at a specific time in the day, you receive a rare item. When the item is particularly rare and valuable, you'll often see a post letting you know what the item is and when you should click on the page to get it. At present, this is probably one of the easiest ways to rack up a large amount of Neopoints. You can find daily information on the prizes and time window on the r/Neopets Discord. Another useful resource is JellyNeo, which posts news, updates, and various goings-on in the Neopets community. And that's about it. If you want to play Neopets again and need to make a new account, please consider using the link in my description because I get a little in-game kickback from that and I'd appreciate it. Also, add me as a friend on there at Lee Speaks. My latest Patreon exclusive video is a ranking of all the Neopets paintbrush colors. Now, it seems like this would be an easy A for me, wouldn't it? But the pinks that they used, they're bad. Have you ever wanted your Neopet to be a fart? If you'd like to see that and all of my other exclusive videos, check out my $5 per month tier. Thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video, and don't forget to check out the link in my description and use code LeeSpeaks for 55% off your first box. Thank you so much to Khan, Dr. Dreamerella, Fishcatch, Julia, Ms. Goat, and Tara Tara. Okay, bye.
I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever in poverty. I hope you live forever.